So I'm going to tell you the story of how I became Jaimee-Lee.
So when I was very young, I was born. To be honest, most people consider that a rather bad choice. I don't remember much of it. There was a lot of blood, screaming. I think someone cried. It might have been me. I'm not entirely sure. I'll admit it probably was. I will admit my memory is kind of trash. That's just like that's.
I mean, I could keep talking shit, or I could just like get on with the serious note. So I was raised religiously, right? And it's not exactly the best thing to be constantly told that like you're someone who's sinning or against God. I live to spite God at this point, let's be real. When you're growing up in that kind of situation, it really makes it hard to accept who you are. When I was young, my father and my mother broke up. I was a toddler, so I don't even remember that situation, but I never grew up with a father figure in my life. I had male figures around. It wasn't like I couldn't find someone to be like, yes, that's how it's supposed to go. But it didn't really seem like the right thing to me. Like, guys don't make sense. Or just, to me anyway, not a cars nerd. I'm not like unga bunga fucking gorilla. So I also grew up in an all girl household. I was sitting there kind of fighting against myself like all the time. Being born, well, a guy, and then fighting against yourself more often than not because you're trying to be something that isn't actually what you are. It's another thing that just kind of takes the toll. Eventually it did get to a point. So due to like me being Jaimee-Lee after all, I used to blame my mother and the fact I lived in an all-girl household for the reason I acted effeminate. It's not like I didn't have any father figures. I mean, there's enough dudes out there that have been raised by TV. You can't sit there and act like me having only women in my house turned me into a woman. That's stupid. A lot of like my childhood was intense. I got assaulted. I didn't have a father around. I had helicoptering family members that made me feel like I didn't have any freedom. It made me feel like anything I liked was bad. Anything I could be, anyone who I was a problem. Then eventually, all that crap together came to a head. And when I was 21, 22-ish, I tried to kill myself. I'm glad I got through it. Your issues might not be as bad as someone else's, but in the end, your issues are still things that need to be worked on, and they do lead to problems. I met more people in a mental health ward that were decent human beings compared to people I've met outside. So anyway, after that, I ended up with about 4 years of pretty bad depression. I barely talked to anyone. I wouldn't go out much. I did have like somewhat a friend group that I would talk to, but I'd mostly be a shut-in. It's not exactly the best kind of feeling to constantly be at war with yourself and not even know why. I had no real inkling that I could be any kind of trans. I just sort of went through the motions as a depressed 20-something-year-old would. Then we fast forward to about 2 years ago. I try on a dress for the first, and a wig and makeup for like the first time ever. I thought it was like a cross-dressing thing, maybe a sex thing, don't ask. But I did that, and then it felt right. It felt like I looked at myself and I was just like, that's who the fuck's this? It was as if I'd suddenly discovered something about myself that I'd not really noticed was there. So at first, I just passed it off as a cross-dressing thing. I didn't think it was anything. I didn't really believe it could be anything more than that until it started sort of digging more and more in my brain, as if there's something else, or it's a person inside that I just didn't notice was there before. And so then the mental crap happened. Started fighting with my own brain more and more. It was arguing with itself what it was. I was in denial. I would fight tooth and claw just to be like, no, I'm not Jamie, I'm Adam. I'm a guy who thinks he's a girl and is just crazy. But that's wrong. That's not how it actually was, and it's not what it eventually became. Welcome me, Jaimee-Lee, I guess. I'll be real. Like, after accepting who I am and finally having the confidence to be myself without worrying what other people think of me or giving a shit, I feel new. I feel, for the first time in my life, like I actually have some idea of myself and who I am and what I can be, who I can be. And it's fantastic. It's like I'm renewed, as it were. So I guess say hello to me and be seeing more of me.
This is Jaimee-Lee signing off. And remember, it's not the big titty goth girl you have on the outside, but the one in your heart.